I am Robin Bennett, and welcome. We're glad you're here. Susan Briggs is over there on the other side. We are co-founders of the Dog Gurus. See, I said that totally different. Now I'm totally off of how I normally say that. Anyway, we're glad you're here. We're going to talk about seasonal hires for your pet care business. And let me jump back a second ago. Let me jump back a second ago. That doesn't even make sense. Can I just start all over? I'm going to start all over. Starting
Okay,
all over the way I normally introduce ourselves so that I don't get confused.
it's gonna be a day, I can tell
This
already.
is this is how we roll on Facebook Live.
Yep.
This is the problem with live video. Okay, I need one of those clapper things. So I have one okay, starting over. Hi, everybody. I'm Robin Bennett. I'm one of the co-founders of the Dog Gurus, and Susan Briggs is over there on the other screen. She is the other co-founder of the Dog Gurus. The Dog Gurus is a pet care business consulting and staff training company. We help pet care businesses launch, grow, and profit. See how good that was when I do it normal? Because I've only said it that way like thousands of times. Anyway, we are glad you're here, and we're going to talk about seasonal hires because Memorial Day is right around the corner. And that is the traditional start of the summer, at least in the United States. And that also means that it's hopefully the busy season for lodging as well as daycare, but primarily we see lodging increase during that time frame. And a lot of times we have summer help that comes home from college or wherever they might have been during the year. And sometimes you have those seasonal employees that come in to help you. So we're going to talk a little bit about how to integrate those folks, how to get them started, and how to get them up and running as quickly and safely as possible. Because obviously, if they're seasonal help, you don't have forever to train them because they're going to oftentimes go back to school or whatever at the end of the summer. So, with that, I'm going to toss it over to Susan and you can start us off.
Yeah, I think the key thing is that you do have a plan to train them because everybody that walks into your business does need training if they are to uphold your quality care standards for your furry guests as well as your clients. So you've got to make sure you have a training plan in place. And that has to be based on the responsibilities that you put into the job description. And so for seasonal workers, you've got to be thinking, what responsibilities can I give them that will be productive and will support my main team and that is easy to train and get them integrated, as Robin talked about. And cleaning, of course, comes up on that, but you don't want it to only be cleaning because then you're going to have turnover of your seasonal hires. So you got to let them do some fun stuff as well and interact with dogs. But you may think about that they work with green dogs and there are certain functions that they do that will be easy to train and will keep them safe. So I think just being organized with your job descriptions and a training plan is the way to get started.
Yeah, and I do think really documenting what are those key roles you're going to want them in. Sometimes when they're doing stuff within the lodging enclosures, it's a little bit easier to get them trained because they're generally speaking only dealing with one dog at a time versus something like daycare where putting them into a group of dogs to manage a group is a much harder skill to learn because it takes a little bit more time. But we do start everybody in our training roles, which are in Pet Guru College, which is our staff training program. We start every single person right off the bat learning cleaning, disinfecting, and sanitizing. That's one of the first few courses that they actually are taught because we can always use help with that, and everybody can do it. Doesn't matter what your role is. But I agree with Susan that is not the only thing you want to teach them, or else they're not going to keep coming back because that's not why they probably wanted to work in a pet care facility. But I would definitely teach them some of that. But then I would start to document what other things do you need them to do. If it's working with the dogs in the lodging enclosures, they need to know how to let dogs in and out of the enclosure safely. They need to know how and when and where to take them out for potty breaks or activities. They need to know what those activities look like. And maybe you have certain activities that seasonal hires can do, and then other activities that more advanced staff can do. And especially if you do things like enrichment. So maybe a seasonal staff can go on a nature walk with a dog, but it might be the more advanced staff that are with you longer that do some of the enrichment activities like some training tricks or training or climbs. And not that you can't teach the seasonal staff that, but you want to start them out at some point. So really prioritizing what those jobs are and those activities are that you need them to learn, and then figure out what makes sense so that you can get them involved as quickly as possible, but also do it as safely as possible as well. So I think that's really important too.
Yeah, and you want to probably explain to them that first you will be doing a lot of cleaning or maybe help putting together puzzle toys or licky mats or stuff like that. But the plan is we want you to master those things and do them really well. And then once you've mastered them, we'll introduce and train you loose leash walking and doing some of the games and activities. So you can kind of let them know there's going to be more coming to keep their interest up, but then also reward them for mastering maybe the not so fun tasks quicker so that they can get on to some of the dog interaction tasks.
The other thing I will say about hiring seasonal staff is they sometimes, what's a nice way of saying this? They do sometimes, I think, get treated like second class citizens.
Mm.
So you want to be really aware of that. And that might not be by you, it might be by the other staff. So you want to make sure that you're doing as much as possible to bring the whole team together as a whole. Frankly, I wouldn't even refer to them as seasonal staff, like in front of themselves. That's just not a term I would use. It's a term we do use in the industry because we do understand that there's periods of times where you're hiring people on that are only going to be there for a short period of time, mostly not because they're any less valuable, but mostly because of their circumstances. Most often it's kids coming home from college where they're going to leave again. And then they come home again, maybe at the holidays, at Thanksgiving or Christmas, and you hire them again. But I wouldn't make a habit of referring to them that way in the office around other employees. And then you want to make sure you're doing all the team building stuff that you would do normally. And in the summer, I feel like team building sometimes gets put on the back burner because we are so busy. But you want to really make a concerted effort to make sure you are doing some activities where you're getting the team together, having ice cream socials occasionally, have the ice cream truck show up and treat everybody to some nice ice cream one day or whatever it is. But everybody's involved with that, and you're including those hires in those activities as well. And then performance reviews, just talking to them and providing them feedback. Just because they're only going to be there for a few months, if you think about it, this might be somebody, especially if it's somebody that just started school, for instance, they could be really valuable to you for the next several years while they're going to college. So keep that in mind. Don't just think about, oh, okay, they're going to leave in 3 months and I'm never going to see them again. A really good seasonal hire going to come back for season after season. So you want to make sure that you're building those performance feedback loops and you're talking to them and keeping them appraised of how they're doing, how you think they're doing, and as Susan said, where they have room to grow. We know a lot of places where they had somebody that was a seasonal hire that turned into a full-time employee because once they got done with school, they decided this is really what I want to do. And there's a career here for me. And so that could happen too, but it means you have to start right from the beginning, treating those people with the understanding of all the same performance feedback stuff that you do with your regular employees.
That is so true. Really, your seasonal team, building a reliable seasonal team that can help you when peak periods happen is invaluable because then you don't have to carry additional work labor during the off season. So these really are your valuable part of your company. And like Robin said, making sure that the other employees have patience with them, support them, and help them succeed and want to welcome them back is important.
And I would also look at, as they continue on with you, which hopefully they will, I would make sure that they understand that they're welcome back, that they're welcome back at the holidays. And let me know when you're going to get done with school or whatever, or you're welcome back next summer, and making sure that you're reaching out to them a few weeks or maybe even a month before their session ends, if they're at college or wherever they are, so that you can get them back in, because the training that you go into each time they come on can be a little bit more advanced. So in other words, most of the time they're going to learn the basics that first year that they're with you. So let's say it's this summer, but if you have people that this is the third summer with you, they can actually move on and advance a little bit and start to do a little bit more. So making sure they understand that those opportunities exist next time they come back is really important as well. So I just think that feedback loop often gets missed with people that are going to be in your facility only 3 or 4 months at a time. We tend to not just talk to them at all, which is like, thanks for
Yeah.
that. And then they leave.
And I think when you're recruiting for these part-time positions, like you said, Robin, showing the interest that this is like a long-term position for any time you have a break in our back, because likely that is when you're going to have some extra pets in the center and can use the help. This is a great opportunity that if you help staff with part-time people to where you can build in and do more revenue generating activities and options with the dogs versus cutting back on those or limiting those because you don't have enough staff members to do it all. And that's just not a good plan that you want to do as far as maximizing revenue when you have a lot of pets coming through your doors. You should really be strategizing what are the easy packages to sell with activities that a lot of these part-time help can do, or free up enough of your regular team members to do the higher level stuff so that you can still maximize doing add-ons and extra revenue generating activities during the peak season.
Yeah, and this is a good time. We've talked a lot about price increases, especially since COVID started and now with inflation. If you didn't hear any of those discussions, you can go check out our YouTube channel because we've talked a lot about price increases. But definitely right before peak season is a really good time to consider what your pricing is. But it's also is a really good time to look at all of your services. And we talked a tiny bit about this, I don't know, recently. I don't remember which Facebook Live it was, but really looking at all of your packages, all of your add-ons, all of those a la carte services that you have, and deciding if you want to keep all of them. And maybe this is an opportunity for the summer to say, let's see what happens if we reduce that number. Now, if you only have 2 or 3, that's perfectly fine. I'm talking about if you have a whole bunch of add ons, this might be a good opportunity to say, what are the ones that are most often purchased and how can you add value to those or start to sell those more frequently? And I will say that we had a marketing guy a long time ago tell Susan and I, like, one of his phrases was, we actually did not like this person at all, but we did take away something from him. So that was the good thing. But he always had this phrase that he used that was called, that was a confused mind always says no. And that has always stuck with us. So if a confused mind always says no, and that's true, if you get confused while you're trying to purchase something, you just won't purchase it. I literally the other day was looking up something for my dog, a supplement I wanted to give my dog. And there were so many choices. I got overwhelmed during the whole research phase and I didn't order it. And then 2 days ago, I went into my Amazon cart and there were like all these things in there that I had just added to the cart because I thought maybe I'll buy that, maybe I'll buy that, maybe I'll buy that. And I never checked out because I just shut down because I was too confused.
Yeah.
So it took me like 2 weeks to do that. I finally did buy something this morning, actually, but that's just how our mind works as shoppers. And that's the same that is true when you have clients and you're like, oh, do you want to buy this package or this package? Or we also have these 5 things over here. Many of your clients are just going to go, no, I don't want anything. And
Yeah.
it's not because they don't want anything. It's because you just overwhelm them. So looking at that and saying, maybe we should just reduce some of those, look at what is most commonly purchased. And then I agree with Susan, look at what things are easy to sell that your entire team can do. And it's not just one person that's able to teach or do that one activity. So really looking at that as well. And then pricing accordingly, obviously.
Yeah, it's a great way to refresh your offerings as well. Simplify it when you're busy, and then when things slow down again, you've got fresh new options. So it keeps it fresh for the guests and for the clients. I think that's great. And it's okay to have a minimum standard of activities that you want to have. I think sometimes none of us really want to have a lodging guest with us that doesn't do anything except for their business walks. So I think it's okay to say that your core lodging includes at least one activity per day, and the pricing adjusts to include that. I would do the same thing with pet sitting. If you feel like I am only going to serve clients that do at least 2 visits a day or 3 visits a day, in these peak seasons, it's okay to have that minimum requirement that you feel good about ensuring the care quality for your brand as a requirement. A lot of people are traveling. I think even with the increased rates of fuel and airline tickets and all, people are still traveling. So it's okay to have some different options and requirements during peak periods than what you have other times. Make it easy on yourself and profitable for your business.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. So Allison, and if anybody does have questions, go ahead and leave them in the comment section. We have a couple other things we're going to cover, but we only have about 10 minutes left. But Allison did say, do you guys require daycare dogs to have a basic manners type of class to be in adult daycare? So we did not have a basic manners class required. We did require a dog evaluation though before they could come to daycare. And then from that point on, they were always being assessed for their suitability for daycare. So I would look at some basic behaviors that you want to see in the dogs that are attending, but I don't mean behaviors like training behaviors. I don't mean like the dog will sit or the dog will lay down or the dog will come or that kind of thing. I'm looking at what are appropriate play behaviors, and I want the dog to have those, which aren't really things you're going to teach. Those are just the dog either has them or they don't. They either enjoy daycare or they don't. So I would definitely do an evaluation. I don't know, Susan, if you have other thoughts on that.
I know some daycares do operate that way, and if that's what you want your brand to be, I think that's okay. But like you, Robin, it was more behavior based, although part of our bully breed policy was that we did include that those dogs have a good recall and respond to our team members. And if they didn't, then sometimes taking a basics manners class would help.
Yeah, and I guess it's also depends on what your when I'm talking about daycare, I am assuming that you're talking about where dogs are basically playing together off leash and not daycare that has a training focus. That's separate from enrichment, if that makes sense. So you have daycare, which is just off leash play. The dogs are playing all day by them together, but they're not doing much anything else. That was traditional daycare for many years. Then you've got enrichment daycare, which is again, the dogs generally speaking want to play and be with other dogs, but now you're doing activities with them in smaller groups. So that's enrichment daycare. But then there are some dog trainers that are actually doing daycare more as a training with more of a training focus, where they're doing a lot more training during the actual daycare day. And that I would charge a lot more for that, for one thing. But that is really, I put that more in the line of training. If you're running that kind of daycare where you're doing a training focused daycare, then you might have certain skills that the dogs need to have to be in that group, if that makes sense. So that would, but I'm assuming you're talking about regular daycare, Allison. So hopefully that made sense with that answer. The other thing I was going to talk about really quickly before we leave the topic of the seasonal hires is, and I hadn't thought about this, like I literally just thought about this while we were talking, Susan. So it's a new thing. But anyway, these people, since most of these seasonal hires are going to generally be your college age students, think about this. I didn't think about this before, but if they're really good employee and they really learn about what makes a dog looks like when they're happy versus when they're not happy, and they're really good at technology because they're college students, so they're going to be, they think about if they want money during the year, there's a possibility there that you could actually keep that person on your payroll and have them doing your social media remotely. And so once they learn your business, it's like the next best thing to just hiring somebody to do your social media who's never actually been in your business. They can do a good job, but think about how cool it would be when you get somebody that actually knows the business. They know what the business looks like, what your values are, what your staff is doing because they've done it. And now they're good at social media. They might need extra funds for college. And so they might be able to just do some part-time work for you remotely, where you set up a process where your staff sends them pictures and they're doing the posting on social media and that kind of thing. Because frankly, they could do that pretty much anytime during their day. They'd be doing it during college classes. Really, it would be great for you. Okay, don't do that. Pay attention to your college classes if you're going to school. But anyway, I think that's a really good way of then keeping them engaged through the time when they're actually not working with you. And then you can bring them back in. So
Great. Teachers could be another resource for seasonal hires. May have the summer, most of the summer off, and then also have some time during breaks, probably not as much as a college student would, but getting creative on who you can reach out to fill these positions will be helpful. And I think it's a good way to supplement your team and staff.
yeah, you almost need to do it because the other alternative is you're bringing in a big influx of people that you're going to have to then fire in the off season, which is not what you want. Now, if you can get your boarding to where you're at 80% occupancy all the time, that would be awesome. It's just traditionally, we just don't see that in the pet care industry. So you see a big flux in the summer, and then you see another big flux in, at least in the United States, at Thanksgiving and Christmas time. But you need those extra staff. So really going out and recruiting for that. And honestly, I know when my daughter was in college, I don't think she realized that she could find a job that wouldn't penalize her for quitting after 3 months. Because
Mhm.
that's how she was looking at it. She's, I'm not going to look for a job because I can only work there 3 months. So then I think she just didn't want to look for a job. But I'll give her the benefit of the doubt and say she probably would have, but you don't think about that. You don't think about going and finding a job and then knowing that in 3 months you're going to have to quit. But making sure that your community knows you have these opportunities for people to come on knowing that they're going to leave. You're actually giving them an off ramp. So I definitely think marketing for those people is not something we as a pet industry traditionally do very well. I think we put out job descriptions that are like, here's the job, and it's an indefinite job description. And people don't necessarily realize that they could just come on and work for a few months and then leave again. So definitely looking at that when you're posting your job descriptions during the summer or just before summer.
And you may be able to find as many that you need just letting your client base know that you're looking for them, because either they may have college age kids coming back or have relatives or friends. There's a big network. So you may be able to find them through your own client database.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Okay, I will put a link into there to Pet Guru College. So if for those of you that are using Pet Guru College, you may not know this, but we actually, for those of you that are using Pet Guru College, that there's roles based on the role that you're hiring someone for. So there's a daycare counselor, there's a lodging counselor role, there's a client care counselor role, there's an enrichment counselor role. So we have those roles already built in. You might not realize there actually is a seasonal pet care counselor role as well. So if you're using Pet Guru College, and I just put a link in the comments for that, but if you're using it, you can actually assign somebody the seasonal counselor role, which means they're only going to get a portion of the full training for the other roles, but it's enough to get them started safely. And again, we start them out with cleaning. They're going to learn a little bit of knowing dogs because they need to know some canine body language, and you can get them up and running and have a formal training program that you can still use even though they're only going to be with you for a shorter period of time. And then if they come back, maybe you hire them permanently. The good thing about the learning management system is if they've already done that seasonal role and then you give them a bigger role like lodging counselor because they've come back and they're going to work for you full time now, all of the roles that they already have taken, all of the courses that they've already taken, they show up as completed in that seasonal role. So they can just skip over those. So they're not going to have to double the training and watch it all again or whatever. So definitely check that out. If you don't have a training program, obviously you can look at Pet Guru College, or like we said at the very beginning, just start making a list of what are those tasks and responsibilities that you want that person to start to learn, and then start building. You probably already have some pieces of that because you're training your regular staff for it, but start putting that together as an actual training program for those